I'm a CFII. I can teach instruments. I can also teach private pilot level stuff. But I want to take this thing to the next level, and I want to be able to teach my instrument students in a really immersive environment. So John actually makes these very nice panels where I can fit all of my stuff that I already have into his panel and make it look like a real airplane. And the thing about simulation is where it becomes really effective is when you forget for just a few moments that it is not real, or you feel like for a couple of seconds that it is real. That's when you know simulation has done a good job. So I want to increase that for my students, that realism. And so you're going to see that transition happen now. I'm actually just touching down now. I'm just narrating here, perfect. And we're going to take you through that transition of what was it like to get this simulator, which I think is pretty typical for people to have, even a flight school to have, and take it to a whole new level. So let's watch. Let's see what this looks like. Let's go through this process.
You got enough airspeed there, Cat?
Hey,
oh my gosh. He's going soft
field. This is a soft field.
He's going soft field.
Just wait. This is actually what we're going to do over here.
100 feet there? Yeah, okay.
And then we go. Pause. Exit.
Yep.
Goodbye, old. Hello, new. Piece.
Care, you're opening this. You don't want to go too deep. Okay.
Ooh.
We got a little peanuts. Look, guys. These peanuts. You can eat them.
That's.
All these peanuts. This is gonna be dinner. This is gonna be dinner, guys.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, look at that. It takes a couple engineers to nail that, huh?
Wow.
Look at that, people. That is looking good. Nice and stable. It's not going anywhere, alright?
Alright, let's go. Alright everybody, so we got this thing all set up, and although this isn't my first impression of this panel, I've actually seen it for several hours now. I wanted to give you some of my first impressions because it is very impressive. So you saw what I had before, so it's a bit overwhelming what's here now. I mean, it's all in this panel that looks like really close to the real thing, especially ergonomically. The instruments are in the right spot. I looked downline to see scenery. Even got the aircraft view set up pretty well. The throttle feels like it's in a fairly correct spot. The GPS is perfect. I mean, everything just feels right. Very high quality panel here. John is here listening. He's in the other room. But this thing is amazing. I'm going to have him talk to you guys later. He's just done such a good job with it to talk to you about the type of materials that are on here. But, you know, for me, without all the, you know, background knowledge of how everything comes together, what I see is quality. I mean, this thing is rigid. It's on the desk. It's not going anywhere. You know, I can control the aircraft very well. And I just feel like it's working well. And that's the whole point, right? So I'm going to be using this with my students. I'm going to be showing you guys videos with this simulator setup. So the camera angles may not be perfect now. I'm still trying to figure that out and how it's going to work. But I've got everything hooked up. I've got my iPad that's taking the information from X-Plane. I've got these instruments that are on this iPad Pro behind here. And the GPS from RealSimGear that is just like a 530. Feels like it. It's just natural to be able to use it. And then some other panels here that aren't necessarily close to the, perfect to the real thing. But it's still great to know that I can go and do COM2 or NAV2. You can even come down here and do transponders. So there's a lot of different things that you can, different functionality you can use. Got mixture, prop, and throttle here, and trim. This trim wheel is a little wonky to work with, and whenever you use trim, it actually is better to have that force feedback. So, you know, you make sacrifices when you're using a simulator, but for the most part, speaking outside of just the different components, really impressed with the all-in-one package. The idea is for me to just sit down here and do flights and do some simulation with my students, do some simulation to teach you that are outside of Alaska some knowledge. So that's kind of where we're at. I just wanted to go through and show you guys an ILS approach into Kenai, which is a local airport here to where I am. So we're going to do that. You can see all of this stuff working together. You may not be able to see it up close and perfect, but you're going to see everything working together, how beautiful it is, how clean and simple it is. And what I'm actually going to do now is I'm actually going to go to my map view here and bring down my range and get set up for the approach. So yeah, I mean, don't expect perfection here, but I'm going to attempt to shoot this ILS down the minimums. I've set up the weather to do that, and we're just going to check it out and see how it works. And I've got everything set up to do that. So if there's any dead air, if I'm sitting here concentrating and it's not quite nice and it's boring, I'll just cut that out. But we're going to go down the approach path here. We're going to go to minimums. I'll show you some stuff in between. Maybe even do a little fancy time lapse in between here and there. But let's see how this thing works in real action. And then after I'm done with that, I'm actually going to have John sit down here, and he's going to walk us through what went into making this all work. So let's actually see it in action first, and then we'll go from there. All right, so there's that glide slope. So what's going to happen is I'm just going to reduce the power just a little bit to allow that nose to naturally come down, and hopefully we'll just follow that glide slope down. Still trying to get a sense for what the settings are on this airplane, the configurations that will allow me to get the correct descent rates and everything out of this. So not quite there yet, so this may be a little bit of a hodgepodge, but we'll make it work. Alright, doing a little bit of back and forth here. I need to get that dialed in. Glide slope's looking good for now. We'll see how that trends. So I've got my readout here that is a little bug on my HSI, and as I get on a stabilized approach, I'm just going to move. I'm not going to move outside that HSI. I'm just going to allow that to. I'm not going to do any heading changes outside that HSI. So I'm going to keep it right there. Again, you can barely see the change, but I'm just going to let it slowly come in. It gets more sensitive the closer you get. Glide slope's looking good. We're on track, passing Freddy now, which is the final approach fix. So it's only going to get more sensitive as we get closer to the runway. I see I'm trending slightly high on my glide slope. I'm just going to bring back a touch of power. See what that does for me over time. Alright, right on my course. Going to bring it back the other direction. Right about there. So, got lots of pieces here to verify that I'm on track and doing well. My minimum altitude is 300 feet, actually 298, but I just rounded up to 300. So that's what I'm looking for on my altimeter. All right. So we're just below 1,000 feet AGL now. We're getting pretty close.
2 mile final runway 20 right.
And some nice situational awareness things there on Flight. All right, we'll keep that right there. and milk that in. There we go. Come back to the right just a tad. Looking really good on everything. And you may see the runway outside the airplane, but I'm not looking there yet until I get to my minimums. I'm just going to focus on this because I want to practice. Alright, so that's looking good. Right there. That's my course right there. Just got to milk that back and forth just a little bit. Glide slope's looking nice. Just little, see how little tiny movements?
500.
And okay, there's 600 feet. Just a few hundred more feet to go. Still looking. Don't quite see the runway. Gonna come back to the right just a hair. A little bit below glide slope. Bring that up. Things can get a little wonky here. We're only off by a few feet at this stage. And starting to look outside the window. But I'm not quite at my minimums. And there are my minimums. Alright, there's the runway. Right on the approach path, right align center. I'm pretty proud of myself. That was awesome. Alright, so I'm going to configure for landing. I'm pulling the power all the way back. I approach a little fast. And just bleeding that airspeed off. Going to start milking in a little bit of flaps, but you know, you're all set up. You got a long runway. You could even do no flaps if you really wanted to. So I don't have to get too crazy with it. And then any final switches you'd want to do, but I kind of had everything set up already. So I'll just bring this in now. This acts a little wonky with the simulator. When you add those flaps, it kind of pops up. Anyway, bring it in for landing here. And that's it. So that is the simulator in action. I mean, that's how the real thing works. You've got things you're working with here, things you're working with there. FlightSim doesn't know that this is a simulator. It's just treating it like the real thing. You see it just switched over to the taxiway chart there. GPS worked perfectly, just like the real thing. Instruments were really great. Nice little refinements. It's going to be fun to add some more realism to this with some more real-world weather plus winds and all sorts of things we could get into. So really great. That is kind of a first impression for you to see how well the simulator works, how great the graphics look. I mean, if you can see that screen at all up there, just looks very, very realistic. At least from my perspective. You're going to see a little bit of glare in the camera here, but anyway. All looks good. I want to get John in this seat, and I'm going to kind of interview him, let him talk it out a little bit, but also interview him about these materials, and hopefully you guys will enjoy that process. So here we go. Let's get John in this seat now. Dude, that ILS was perfect.
All I heard was like, I left because I didn't want to stress you out, and all I heard was like right on the center line, and I'm like, oh geez, he probably nailed it.
It was like perfect.
Dude, legit.
Nice.
That's awesome. Nice job.
Yeah.
All right, John's sitting down now. He's here. I'm just over his shoulder. You're not going to really see me. I don't think you can see me on any of the cameras. Maybe you can see me right over his shoulder here.
What's going on, guys?
But John is kind of flying around. He's got a pause button. You can pause if he's really getting into some deep thoughts here. But John, run us through this process a little bit, what it was like coming together and making this happen.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. So, obviously we make a lot of tabletop avionics panels. Chris reached out to me, had some ideas around some components he already owned, and was looking for a better, more immersive experience in his flight sim. So he's been using this for quite a few different things, actually with his school as well. So that's a great thing for him. And shot me a note, mentioned what he had. We went back and forth on some different avionics components that he could consider to accomplish what he was trying to do. One of the examples of that is we ended up using an iPad here. So this is an iPad Pro, a first gen 12.9 inch, but we used a remote flight cockpit here. Really great 6-pack, really nice solution compared to some of the older options that are out there in the marketplace. And this just connects very simple. And he had this RealSimGear unit as well, and we obviously integrate all these different components. We work with a lot of different avionics and a lot of components, have a great relationship with RealSimGear and what they use, and so we're able to really integrate all these things into this panel. And
Yeah, so let me interject there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
what is your
right?
What is your component here that you manufactured?
Yeah. So yeah, we manufacture this whole panel, right? And so we manufacture the integration module that takes all these different avionics, puts them all together in one simple thing that you can lift up, get on your desk, and tie everything together, right? So you don't have to be fumbling with all these stands and things falling over. It's just everything is built in really nicely. We manufacture this all from carbon cold rolled steel. It's really stiff. Gets great weight, but also great lightness. For the stiffness of the actual material, we powder coat it. We make this whole thing, so it's really, really nice.
And everything's nice and attached. Has the perfect hardware to fit in there.
Give the hardware with it. All hardware is included. So whatever screws you need, it's really pretty well ready to go. So
obviously people are going to have different components.
Yeah,
I have these these bottom three is what I have: the yoke, the trim wheel, and the throttle quadrant.
Yep.
And then got the RealSimGear thing because I knew that was going to work. They have other items you can get, 430, 750. I don't know if he'll do a 650, but G1000. So he's kind of building his products there too.
Yep.
But then iPad, because I want to stick with 6-pack because that's what I fly.
Yep.
It's very unlikely I'm going to be getting a G1000 airplane for my flight school. I'm new.
Yep.
And then we've got this stuff on the right-hand side, which is I ordered those on Amazon. Those are from Logitech. Fairly simple, not perfectly realistic, but those will work too. In other words, they're not even in the right location, right? They could go on the left. Now, that said, those are the things I had. This is kind of the form factor we want to do. What if someone else had different components? What do you do?
Yeah. So what we do a couple of things. Usually we can find the actual panel cutout dimensions, and so I work with a lot of different avionics manufacturers. We can actually get the panel cutout dimensions and files and integrate those into the panel. We send you back and forth some CAD files, the actual illustrations of those CADs, so the renderings, and you're happy with everything looks and everything fits. Now, additionally, if we can't find those actual panel cutout files, we'll actually have you mail the avionics and the components to me, and we'll actually make them all fit from a mounting solution perspective.
And that's actually what we did with the iPad Pro. That's a good
exactly
point.
What we do.
Because you hadn't done an iPad Pro yet.
Yep.
And so I actually just shipped it to you, and you got it all figured out for me.
Yep, very easy. Yeah, so we do the mounts and everything, and that was pretty simple.
John and I are going to be flying in a real airplane tomorrow. We're looking forward to that. He's going to get some Alaska flying experience.
Excited for that.
I'm all about that. And you guys are going to be seeing this simulator more in the future. And any last words, John, before we...
No, I mean, just it been an awesome experience coming up to Alaska. This is now the most beautiful state I've ever seen. And thanks to Chris for all of his hospitality and for everything in the community. It's a great group of people and excited to be a part of it. So, yeah.
And check out John, StayLevelAvionix, all right? Makes these great panels if you're thinking of building a really comprehensive, all-in-one package that you're going to use for your flight training. He's the guy to go to. There's a lot of research out there as well to get these different components and things, so he can guide you in the right direction. He can't do all of that stuff for you, but John's a great resource. Great panels. This stuff doesn't exist. That's why I got John on board with this, because this is what we were after.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this thing. This is it's affordable. First of all, I didn't go out and buy one of these $20,000 panels.
No.
I can't use it for logging time, for actual student experience with instrument, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't mean I can't still teach in this and get some good experience for the students. So, great job, John. Thanks so much for coming, but this is only the start. We're going to be flying tomorrow. Hopefully show some of that footage after you guys see this footage. And so thanks for coming, guys, and until next time, throttle on. All right, I didn't want to leave you guys without some sort of real flying experience. So here, John and I are going to take off from a local airport called Soldovia. It's short. It's a soft field kind of, surrounded by trees, challenging for a guy from Chicago. So this is going to be in another video, but I thought I'd give you guys a taster now because of all that desk work and computer work we were doing. We had to just get out in the wild and actually do something for real. So here it goes.
Okay. All right. Go for departure?
Yeah, let's talk about the takeoff for a second.
Yeah,
so we're going to use as much of this runway as possible. We're going to come around the corner.
Go out to the left a little bit.
Yep, but as you're coming around the back side, I want you to start adding power so that when you come around the corner, you're already full power.
We got a guy over there.
Great.
Okay.
Better landing.
So coming in, giving it, as we're coming around, continuing to give it power.
Yep. And so when we come around the corner, we're already full power and we already have some speed.
Yep.
So you're going to lightly, you want to get that nose roll off, but you don't want to get it off so much that we're creating a lot of angle of attack and creating a lot of drag. I just want the nose roll off. That's it.
Yeah.
As soon as the nose roll comes off, release your back pressure and accelerating ground effect. We're going to do that for a while. We'll probably get up to 80 to do that.
Okay.
Pretty little airplane.
Yeah, very nice.
Little tri-pacer. And then there's a gap in the trees to the left that we're going to go through. So we get all of our speed, and then we kind of build it up, and then we kind of zoom up a little bit when we're ready, and we start to climb out.
And is that lower part of the trees where they're the kind of the V down?
Kind of, yeah. Well, it's actually the higher V to the left.
Okay.
Is actually lower.
Okay.
So there's like a little estuary right there.
Okay.
And we're going to go there. You can't see it right now, but it's
I kind of
right
saw
there.
him go off into the left, though.
Yep.
And kind of following that.
It's definitely lower there. So we're not off by the halfway point, then we're going to abort the takeoff.
Okay.
And again, if I say my flight controls, my flight controls.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
All right, let's do it.
So Lovia traffic, Skyhawk 23 uniform. We're going to be taking runway 4 for staying in the pattern 1 lap. So Lovia. Stuck in the mud. It won't be so muddy on the runway.
Yeah.
Different type of material.
Yep.
Okay, you're all locked in. Everything's good.
Yep. Seats locked. Yeah, we're good.
Oh, 1 degree flaps, actually.
Okay. Great.
Trim. Okay, good. All right. Get scooted up close to the edge there. There you go. Yep. But a little closer, yep.
A little closer to the edge?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, and start to add that power. Get us moving to the other side of the runway. Okay. More power. We're going to come around that corner. More power. Okay, let the brakes go. Here we go. Okay, a little bit of back pressure. Right about there. Maybe a little bit more. Okay, right there. Fly that. Little right rudder. And accelerating ground effect. Stay right above the runway. Forward pressure, your pressure.
Yep.
Okay, more. Don't worry about the trees.
Okay.
And let it zoom up. Now let it climb up naturally. Try to keep about 80 and go to that gap in the trees on the left. There you go.
That was awesome. That was fun. That was sweet.
That's a real field confined takeoff, man.
That was awesome. That was fantastic.
So you will be climbing to the left, okay, since we're doing that pattern. So just keep.
All right, so that's a little bit of a taster of what it's going to be like in the next video. Flying with John, did a couple stop and goes here in Solovia, and then we actually go fly over the ice field and the mountains coming up next. So that's going to be in another video. Hope you guys enjoyed this entire process of getting this IFR panel together. Really, really useful tool. But of course, you got to get out there and do some real flying. So make sure to like, subscribe, share, and until next time, throttle on.